To the Thursday, March 14th meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee on Measure Z Expenditures. And if you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I never get tired of that. Okay, could we have a roll call, please, Sean?
All right. Thank you, Chair. Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
And I understand that you are participating remotely. Can you state the reason why?
I have a potential contagious illness that I did not want to bring into the chambers.
Thank you.
And can you confirm if there's anybody inside the room with you?
There are no other people in the building.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Trent?
Here.
Ms. Campbell?
Here.
Chief Robertson?
Here.
Sheriff?
Here.
Mr. Zemer? Yes. Mr. Bronkel?
Present.
Ms. Long?
Here.
And Ms. Titus?
Here.
Thank you. All present and accounted for, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And are there any modifications to the agenda from anybody? Seeing none. We'll move on to the approval of the March 7th action summary. And hopefully everybody's had time to read that. Are there any corrections, additions? No? Seeing none? Any hands up? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been approved and seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. So this is the section for public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment? Is there anybody? Hands up?
Thank you, Chair Campbell. There are no raised hands.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move along. Okay, so Sean, if you would give us the county administrative office updates.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Just a short report today. I just wanted to attach to the agenda the County Fire Chiefs Association annual report. It's going to be presented to the Board of Supervisors at their next meeting, but this report is public, and there's a lot of information about Measure Z in that report. Also, in the report that comes to the board, that's going to come to the board, I believe, on the 26th or March 9th, or April 9th. They'll have a good list of the specific investments that have been made over the last number of years and the agencies that have received certain equipment. So it'll be a nice, complete, thorough list, and I'll make sure to relay that to you all when that comes in. And of course, you all can check it out on the agenda when it comes. That's all I've got.
Perfect, thank you. Before we go any further, I wanted to thank Eric from Access Humboldt. They're always wonderful to cover our meetings. And you can always see those meetings online if you missed some of it, or if you want to go back and see what you've done. Okay, so the first item is applications for the fiscal year. And Sean, do you want to talk about voluntary reductions or agencies that have pulled their?
Sure, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chair. So as you know, each year your committee puts out an ask to all of the applicants to propose to the committee any voluntary reductions that they would like to make to their applications. Haven't received any voluntary reductions from applicants to date. But I do want to note that the application from the City of Trinidad for the contracted service for the Sheriff's Office, they've requested that that application be withdrawn. Also in this item is a report on letters of support that have been received. I've attached on your desk, and also in the public printed out here is a letter for from, let me see, Telegraph Ridge, I believe, for the Healy Senior Center application, letter of support. And that is all I have. I do understand that this item is also a chance to report out on questions from the committee to applicants, and your committee posed several questions to one of the applicants, City of Arcata in particular. And as I understand, the City of Arcata is here to discuss some of those questions if you would like. That's all I have today.
Okay, do you think now's the time for that?
Yeah.
Okay, is somebody here from the City of Arcata to respond to a question we had last meeting?
Hello. Hello, many of you. Sure. Do you want to?
State your name for the record.
Sure. Karen Deemer, City Manager for the City of Arcata.
There were some questions posed about the SRO position that you had for a while that one of our board members requested that you come and answer. So you must know what they are.
Sure. I might have a sense of what some of them are. I'd be happy to field additional questions today as
Okay.
well. It would have been last April of 2023, I did receive an email from a member of your committee asking about the SRO position. And I'll read to you, and it was just in specific to how was that SRO position being allocated in the city. And the police chief at the time responded to my inquiry. Chief Ahern, is no longer with us, but he had said, and I'll leave the name out, but may have forgotten that in my check-in presentation to the Measure Z Citizens Advisory Committee on November 10th, 2022, I specifically mentioned that, okay? I specifically mentioned that the SRO position was currently vacant and had been for some time due to staffing shortages, and that we were providing similar types of SRO services through our patrol officers. At that time, I didn't field any questions from the committees or request additional information on the vacancy or request that funds be paid back or withheld in the future. For APD's fiscal year 23-24, the application, we did not include the SRO because we did realize at that point that that vacancy was going to be longer term than we originally anticipated. I followed up with a member of your committee. We had a short email exchange that probably ended in maybe May of 2022. And I guess part of my concern is if there were lingering questions at that time, I would have liked to have been able to address those as we moved through this last fiscal year. But that being said, I think probably the core of the question is sort of how are we facilitating those SRO services? And in dividing those, we've got two aspects. First of all, we are still doing dedicated patrols of police to the schools, both before school, lunch break, and after school times. I would say that those just dedicated patrols probably fill about a half of what an SRO position would have been. And additionally, because of the Measure Z funds, we did have a dedicated officer. So schools did not call for non-emergency. If it's an emergency, you dial 911. But for non-emergency calls, instead of going through dispatch, those calls went to a specific officer for that whole period of time. So those schools had a relationship with that officer and had their personal cell phone, and those calls went through that officer in those times. So I would say between that support, and then we had a ton of special support. So whether that was the football game or a school event on or off campus, certainly would have funded probably at least a quarter. I mean, I can't stand before you and promise you 100% of that was filled in that time, but I think likely very close during that period. Are there additional questions about SRO?
Go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you for making time, first of all, coming and speak to us. Looking back through the records of the Measure Z committee, at least the online portion only goes back to the 2019 through 2020 funding period. And that funding period, you submitted a request for a little over $132,000 for a full-time SRO position. And in your narrative description, you talked about how this position would be exclusively working with, young people on the elementary, middle school, and high school campuses and so on. And my understanding is that in that 1920 time period, in fact, that position was filled by a dedicated SRO officer, and that officer dedicated essentially 100% of their time to the schools. Is that correct?
I can't confirm the exact year, but we have had several years in history where we have had a dedicated SRO that's on campus during the school year. Those hours do still flex. They do come and do specific investigations on campus, off campus, in and around school, and then they're not dedicated typically during the school year, but they are dedicated to be out in camps and other areas where those school kids are present during the summer.
Okay. And then in the 21-22 year, excuse me, the 20 and 21 year and the 21-22 years, my understanding it is for a substantial period of both of those fiscal periods. In fact, there was no dedicated position, and the position was essentially vacant as far as being a position dedicated 100% to the service of the schools. And that was when I wrote the letter last year. I asked for some sort of quantification, if you will, of the time period, because the rumor in the community was that the position had been vacant in the majority of the first fiscal year period and was also vacant in the vast majority of the second fiscal period. Is that accurate?
I'd have to look back. Sean did a valiant job of calling me last Friday. We played phone tag until last night. So some of the specific questions that you might be asking, I'd be happy to get more information. I will trust your timeline. I can't tell you exactly when that specific individual was cycled out of that position, but I can tell you for the entire period of time that we were funded through Measure Z for an SRO position, we, one, had a dedicated officer that was in communication with the school, albeit not on campus all day, every day, and not dedicated to be on a campus all day, every day, but was definitely more than them just calling and getting a random patrol unit to assign to answer questions or advice during that period. And I think that it was really, if I'm just going back, we're in 23-24, we didn't ask for SRO. 22-23, we did, knowing that at that time we were under that kind of functional equivalent of providing SRO services spread out, some through our patrol team and through that dedicated officer. I'd say for that entire funding year. That prior funding year, I would say most of that was probably a dedicated officer, but at some time that switched. But I can't give you an exact date today.
Okay, so we aren't able today to quantify the time period when that position was vacant, is what I'm understanding.
I feel like I can get it to a few month mark, but not a specific date.
Would it be fair to say it was in excess of 16 months?
For all of the one fiscal year would be 12, so I would say probably 16 would
Okay,
be
so
accurate.
I guess my concern is when you read the application that Arcata submitted, they pledge essentially to have a dedicated full-time position working on the campuses. I can fully understand in the first fiscal period, if that officer left or you needed to reassign them, how you could try to fill in the services, you know, with an as needed, if you will, position. What I don't understand is knowing the position was fully vacant and there was no recruitment underway, how did City of Arcata in the second fiscal period submit essentially the same application for a full-time position, knowing they had no officer, knowing they had no recruitment underway, but essentially asking for the same full-time funding from the Measure Z committee?
And my answer to that is that at the time the department, and still to this day, believe that we provided those functions with the Measure Z funds. And when our chief came and stood before you and explained the service provision and model that would be used in that fiscal year based on that request, he was very candid, open, and honest with that dedicated position was vacant, but we would be spreading those duties and that responsibility through patrol staff and through a dedicated officer who would be in communication with the schools and be their first point of contact, so they were not going through a traditional just dispatch service. So I do earnestly stand before you today to say that every dime of Measure Z was spent within the measure and the realm of Measure Z funding for a community that contributes probably at least 1.7 million in Measure Z funds to this committee and has never asked for more than $300,000 in return. Every penny that we have spent on public safety from Measure Z has been dedicated to those services. While the model was perhaps different even than our application, we believe that we were forthcoming with this committee when we came verbally to explain to you how that would be managed in that fiscal year.
So if I understood you correctly, you're saying that during the application period for the second fiscal period, that your chief came to us in one of the meetings and explained that you would not be, in fact, following the dictates of your own application, but would be providing the service by an alternate mechanism?
He said specifically in the meeting of November 10th of 2022.
November 10th.
Now, I was unable to access that online last night, but that's what he had reported to me, which I think I probably shared with you last year.
So if this committee will remember through the chair, in the fall of 2022, we had 2 meetings, October and November, where we brought in applicants or projects who were funded, agencies who had their projects funded to come and report on the prior year's activity. And this was one of the reports that happened in that November meeting.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Karen.
Okay, there was one other question that if I could just take a minute to respond to. There was a question in the email around, are we offering signing bonuses? And is that in essence indicative of whether or not we need additional funding? And because I've shared this at length with our community, the city has 30 sworn positions, 21 of those are patrol. We were at a point where we were down 10, right? I mean, that was sort of the crisis point that our council hit. It's been probably 4 years, 5, 6 years, where the majority of our candidates we have put through an academy. It's rare to see a candidate come through an academy that's not sponsored by an agency. The cost of that academy for us is about $63,000. In full disclosure, I did check in with my colleagues to see, are we just going to keep ramping up, signing bonuses and have people shifting around? There wasn't a lot of appetite for pulling them back. So at that time, I did recommend to the council that we institute a $50,000 signing bonus. In terms of return on investment for our community, it's a high return on investment. It's substantially cheaper than the academy for us, and you get a qualified officer who has experience under his or her belt to come and share with your community. That being said, we are also committed to trying to keep our very talented police officers local. In this process in the last 5 years, we've seen 3 of Arcata officers go to Eureka. We've seen 3 of Eureka's officers come to Arcata. We've seen 1 of our officers go to Fortuna. We've seen 1 Fortuna officer come to Arcata, and the sheriff in Arcata has also switched over the year. I call that a win. I call that a win because we have kept those officers in Humboldt County, and all of us lose. To Rosedale, we lose to Reading, we lose to Ashland, we used to lose to a lot of larger agencies that pay more and offer more perks and benefits to our officers. So I struggle internally with signing bonuses from an equity realm within our organization. I have a lot of positions that we struggle to recruit for, and I don't have $50,000 signing bonuses for all of them. So I struggle with that myself. But in terms of return on investment to get our ranks full, we went to $50,000 because we wanted to try to compete out of the area, not to be competing for our local officers. But I am happy that our local officers, we get huge talent, and I thank those other departments for the investments that they've made. And I know we've produced great talent because I see them go to other departments and I see them get promoted within the first year. So I know that we've provided a good officer. So I would really wish that the media and that all of us would look at other ways to try to keep everybody here local and not try to pit ourselves against each other. That's not the intent. We want to retain and we want to recruit good officers to our region. We have extremely talented people that lay their life on the line every day for us. And I don't want to steal any of yours. But I do want to keep them all in Humboldt. And I want them to be in a department where they fit and where they grow and they can promote.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Okay, we need to move on.
Committee member Cole would like to speak.
We got to move on. Did you want to ask Karen a question?
Yeah, real quick.
I do have a quick question. And I thank you for coming here today and being available to answer questions from the committee. I do appreciate it. I'm curious, in the context of the current application, is that a position that you're able to fill? And if that position is unable to be filled, how would those services be provided or accounted for?
Thank you. That is a great question. And I'm sure this committee knows, so I apologize if this feels redundant, but the application before you this year is actually to fund just one of our juvenile diversion counselor positions. This has been, in my opinion, one of the most successful alternative response programs in the county. And it was this measures, well, and so we provide services mostly through Arcata High, but through all the schools in Arcata. You have funded, Measure Z has funded 2 positions for juvenile diversion counselors for many, many years. One of those positions is actually housed primarily has been at McKinleyville High. Arcata High, McKinleyville High are in one school district. The school success that they saw with the Arcata High School diversion officer, it was really hard for them not to be able to provide equivalent services in McKinleyville. And we recognized that there was some shared economy of scale, that if Arcata took on that second juvenile diversion counselor, that we actually, almost 100,000 of our original long-term request was for a position that was funded primarily for the county of McKinleyville. But that is the collaborative effort that I think is the spirit of Measure Z, that I think should really be encouraged by this committee as you look at how do we spread these resources to fill public safety needs in our county. So as we actually have gone out, last year we received no funding for Measure Z. The city will be floating likely a tax measure to try to fill and know that we've got dedicated funding to some of these alternative response programs that are desperately needed in our community as a result of that. Which saddens me because I don't want to pit ballot measures against each other. And the county road tax measure will have my full support. And I hope Arcata's measure will have other full support for these types of programs. Our application this year, though, is just to fund one of those juvenile diversion officers. We have 2 full-time staff that have been with us for years. They're here today. They can speak to the program much more eloquently than I can, and neither of them are going anywhere. So I think to directly answer your question, we will have 2 full-time positions filling. We're only asking for funding of one of those, and we will continue to provide services both in Arcata, countywide through McKinleyville.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Did you have a
I think you answered it inadvertently.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you will keep these 2 positions whether you get money from Measure Z or not?
Maybe, no, not
Oh, okay.
necessarily this year. We did this last fiscal year. We held both of them. It is going to be hard for me to justify keeping a position that is funded primarily services outside of our city. We have found grant funding to support a different source of grant funding to support one of those positions this year. Therefore, I would say not a withdrawal, but we have a reduction in our ask this year of just 1 juvenile diversion. Our application is very small for a community that contributes substantially to the money that you gift.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I just want to make a couple of announcements before we go any further. We have to leave at 4 today. So, and now we've already had somebody speak to that application, so I don't know if we're going to be able to let the juvenile diversion officers come out there, because those were some of the questions. But, so we have to leave at 4, and we have a big agenda. To let people in the audience know, and I know a lot of people came from far, far away, and we really respect that you came. You get 3 minutes to speak about your application next, under public comment. We have $4.1 million to give, and we have $6.3 million worth of requests. So seeing that nobody has said that they were willing to reduce their application at all,
We did request reduction through, you should follow the process like everyone.
okay, anyway, let me just finish. So if you need to run out and talk to somebody on the phone in your main office, or if you want to go out and discuss this with somebody before you come up, that would be fine. We have to make that decision on where the cuts go then. And so it'd be better if there's a possibility that you could make that reduction. So I just want to move forward. At 4, we're going to shut down. So, okay, so this next section is, go ahead, John.
Can we go out to public comment before moving on to the next item?
I thought that's what I was doing.
This was the
To ask peop-
item
ask-
G1 was the item that we just had, and before moving on to G2, we should go out to public comment.
To applications for, right? We want people to come up and speak to their application. Yeah,
Yeah, G1 was the applications for fiscal year
Right.
24-25, where I talked about the voluntary reductions.
right.
And we should go out to public comment before moving on to G2.
Okay. So this is our public comment section where we ask people to come up and speak to their, no? Okay, you say.
public comment on the discussion that we just had.
Oh, okay. Is there any discussion, public comment on the discussion that we just had? No? Anybody? Hands up? No.
Thank you, Chair. No comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the time when you could come up and speak your 3 minutes about your application and let us know. I know everybody's read the application, but we would like people to give us a little bit more information, and then later on, you'll have an opportunity to come up if we have questions for you that weren't answered during that 3-minute or application process. So, and please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Ryan Derby. I'm the Emergency Services Program Manager with the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services. Just here to briefly discuss our application for the Genesis Evacuation Management Platform. This is a evacuation management platform that we implemented in 2021 through a 3-year contract that was paid for at the time from the Board of Supervisors through the general fund. We're up for renewal at the end of this fiscal year. And really what this platform does is allow law enforcement, fire, and emergency management to collaborate in a cloud-based platform for efficient evacuation management. It also provides a public-facing real-time map. So when we do have an evacuation scenario, community members can see where the impacted area of the county is and get relevant incident information. So really just want to highlight that this is a multi-sectoral benefit and has a direct public-facing product that benefits the community in times of crisis. And I'm certainly open to any questions you may have.
We'll have questions later if we have any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Good afternoon, Measure Z Committee. My name is Greg Allen, and I am the Chief of Police for the City of Real Dale. First, I'd like to thank you for allowing me a brief moment to speak about our proposal for Measure Z funding. If you look at our proposal, it's for a records clerk, and it might not be the highest on your priority, but I think I have at least 2 minutes to change your mind or persuade you that it is very high on our priority. The bottom line is that if we lose our records clerk, that means that we're going to have to lose an officer that's on the street because somebody has to perform those duties. Just as something to know about Real Dale Police Department, that we have a total of 9 personnel. 5 of them are sworn personnel, including myself. We have 2 reserve officers, 1 person who doubles up as an animal control officer / code enforcement, and then our records clerk. Now, somebody has to manage that paperwork that our staff does, and I don't know if you've seen cops try to do that. It's not the most professional, and it's not, basically it's a hot mess is what I'm trying to say. So our clerical support often serves as an initial point of contact for members of our community. It provides assistance, answers questions, and directs inquiries to the appropriate personnel. Provides vital administrative functions. Financially for the city, all of us probably remember the earth decided to shift very violently in December of 22 and a repeat performance in January of 23. The city of Real Dale is still suffering from that crisis. According to our financial manager, we're down $35 million in damages, and we're on the hook for 25% of that, which comes out to about $9 million that we're on the hook for. Additionally, the uncertainty of Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act initiative, currently proposed for the November 2024 ballot, could reduce the city's budget by $400,000 in addition. Revenue from our gas tax has also been underwhelming, as more, I believe that's more because of electric vehicles are hitting the street and the rise of gas prices. And something I don't have to say here is cannabis industry, as the county knows, is unpredictable and suffering. And so again, our revenue is dwindling. Now, while our revenue is dwindling, our cost for service is skyrocketing. And so that's not a good mix for a small city like Real Dale. The benefits for having our records clerk is basically the efficient functioning of our organization. Administrative support, time management, accuracy and efficiency, customer service, and organizational effectiveness. And I think the 2 most benefits that we get out of it is that it allows our office to remain open to the public. And the second one, it allows us to free our officers' time to allow them to focus on their primary responsibilities, which are crime prevention, investigations, and community engagement. Funding this position
Thank
through
you, Chief
Measure Z
Allen.
would greatly be appreciated and will be a breath of fresh air. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Hello, I'm proud to be the mayor of Blue Lake. My name is Adeline Jones. You have before you an application from the city of Blue Lake requesting Measure Z funding in the amount of $35,000 to support general law enforcement services. The city contracts with the Humboldt County Sheriff Department for the provision of law enforcement services, and the funding from this request would be applied against the city's fiscal year 24-25 service contract. I have with me Councilperson Elizabeth McKay and also our city manager, Mandy Mager, who I will introduce now to you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present our application. The city of Blue Lake is obviously a very small community. We're pretty rural, but we're a pretty vibrant community, and we're excited to be a partner with the Humboldt County Sheriff. We've been before Measure Z in the past, asked for resources to support an additional deputy. We know that resources are limited in the county, and we're happy to be able to leverage our limited resources and general fund to support law enforcement provisions within not only the city of Blue Lake, but within the county response area. We have experienced a uptick in costs associated with law enforcement this year, and we are working diligently to drive revenue to be able to accommodate those costs, but we are experiencing a small gap this fiscal year, and we would like to request some Measure Z funding. It's a small request, $35,000, and we are willing to reduce that if necessary to be a team player. But basically, we're proposing to leverage the city's general fund budget of $145,000 for deputy services with some Measure Z funding of $35,000 or a smaller amount to provide a deputy in the greater county area. The city of Blue Lake does not have dedicated deputy service, so the deputy that we support actually responds to the greater area. So in that respect, we are helping to fund a greater county response, and we're happy to do that and recognize the benefits for everyone. So we would just ask that you look at our application in the spirit of cooperating with the county and look at the opportunity to leverage a small request to get a much larger benefit for the county as a whole. We are small, but we do generate some Measure Z sales tax, and we are also good consumers in the county and are happy to also pay that sales tax to support county services. And we look forward to cooperating and partnering in the future with the Sheriff Department and the county overall. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next person. You're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Thank you guys for having me again, as it was last week. My name is Fire Chief Nick Pape. I'm the Fire Chief for Shelter Cove Fire. I manage volunteer fire departments for a living. I do it full-time. I work a 72-hour shift, and I manage Shelter Cove Fire as well as 17 other departments in Southern Humboldt as the Volunteer Fire Chiefs Association president. What you guys look at our application is not apples to apples with other applications. So the Fire Chief's application was a commitment to put all of our powers together to come up with one application for you guys to go through. Some numbers to see if we weren't in one application. There's 46 eligible Measure Z entities in the Fire Chiefs Association application. That represents mix of volunteer paid EMS agencies. There's 5 regional special operations teams, rope rescue teams, hazmat teams, USAR teams. There's 3 chiefs associations that are regional, North Bay, Eel Valley, and Southern Humboldt. It includes 672 local firefighters, 546 of which are volunteer, 126 are career or paid. There's close to 100 firehouses and over 200 pieces of apparatus in the county. We are by far the largest volunteer fire system in California that's left. So that's why our request is so high. Last year, we were defunded down to $600,000. Our dispatch costs are around $400 of that. And we also committed to basically a contract with the county to provide fire services for $90,000, which helps us get districts and ongoing funding. And that team is worth its weight in gold. They've been amazing, the work they've been able to do. So we committed to that. Last year, there was 100,406 total incident numbers that fire service members went on. A total volunteer value to the county of that is $4,113,000. That's just our volunteer hours based at the state volunteer rate. I speak for the Chiefs Association requesting no cuts to our application due to the fact that this is carrying us over 2 fiscal years of Measure Z funding. So thank you guys.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Gilda, Petrolia Fire Chief. Been the chief out there for about 14 months now. Been a volunteer there for 19 years. And I'm speaking to Petrolia Fire's need for the fire truck in the application that Nick just spoke about. So, little color, I drove here in 2002 pickup truck with 280,000 miles on it. So that, speaks to that. We've never had a new fire vehicle in Petrolia Fire's history. Our latest vehicle that we just got was something that we raised funds for like the past 5 years, and we purchased a 2010 water tender. The average lifespan for fire apparatus is 10 years. We don't have anything that comes close to being 10 years old. Our second engine in is generally 45 minutes away. That's from Honeydew. And if CAL FIRE is staffed up, they're a little bit faster. Generally, way out there in Petrolia, we're underserved, and we're an all-volunteer department, and we're the front line. And a new engine would be a great benefit to the department, the community, and the rest of the county as well, because we would, be able to come out more and help the rest of the county if necessary. So, thanks for your consideration.
Hi, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate all that you do. My name is Samantha Smith. I am the chief of Willow Creek Fire, and I'm here representing Willow Creek Fire and the Blue Lake Volunteer Fire Department as well. Willow Creek and Blue Lake, we service more than 120 square miles considered an out-of-district area. That's that area between Blue Lake and Willow Creek. It includes the 299 and all of the areas off of the 299, including Bear Road, Titlow Hill, all of that. We've been covering that for about 40 years. The first 30-ish years, we did it free of charge. We just absorbed the cost. But the year before Measure Z was passed, we actually met with the county and agreed upon a fee to continue responding, because we just could simply not absorb those costs anymore. When the next year, the fee was pushed into the Measure Z allotment of the Fire Chiefs Association, and that's where it's been the last 7 or 8 years. But last year, with the defunding of the Chiefs Association and the 41 fire departments in Humboldt, it was decided we would not be getting a payment, and we've been absorbing the costs since then. We've had several meetings with the CAO's office, Board of Supervisor Wilson and Board of Supervisor Madrone, and they all urged us to apply for Measure Z funds separate from the Fire Chiefs Association. Our application is asking for the same amount we received in the past, and that's cover the cost of responding to the large area between Willow Creek and Blue Lake. Without funding, we may not be able to continue responding to those areas because the costs associated are too high, and we cannot continue to ask the residents of Willow Creek and the residents of Blue Lake to fund that area's response. It's our hope that this is temporary and that the county finds another solution to fund the out-of-district calls for Willow Creek and Blue Lake. We don't want to neglect those members of our community, both in and out of district. We feel it's very smart to give them the same responses that everyone gets within our districts. But we also want to make it very clear that we are 100% in support of the Chiefs Association and the 41 fire departments in this county. And if our application were in any way to affect what they would get, if they were not going to get full funding, then we would ask that you would pull our application. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sal Munoz. I'm the Executive Director of the Redwood Parks Conservancy. We submitted an application for the lifeguard program here in Humboldt. And we use the word lifeguards because that's the name that was given by the state. But really, they're water safety officers. They save and protect lives, making our beaches safe. In the last year, they have saved 3 lives from the waters. The rescues were made working closely with the Coast Guard. These water safety officers are not just sitting around at the beach like some people think. They are preventing the loss of lives by educating students from all levels and the general public of how to be safe in the water and around the water. The North Coast Water Safety Officers also help with emergencies at or near the beach. Just in the last 2 years, they participated in more than 100 medical emergencies. The North Coast Water Safety Officers also protect the public at or near the beaches. They work with the sheriff and the local police when incidents of crime are committed. So I urge you to support our application, and we would be willing to reduce the amount if that was necessary.
Hey, Dylan Clevenger, permanent lifeguard with the state parks. This is my 15th year. Little brief history. Lifeguard program started here with the North Coast Junior Lifeguard Program in 2016. Lifeguard Patrol started here in 2018, relatively new. In that time, the Junior Guard program has grown into the 4th largest program in the state. We had 550 kids last year, mostly coming from Trinidad, McKinleyville, Arcata, the North County. Super inspiring to be here. Just to highlight a few partnerships like Sal did, we work closely with the sheriffs, we work closely with Humboldt Bay Fire Water Rescue Team, and we work very closely with the Coast Guard, specifically the rescue swimmers. And, it's hard to quantify a lot of these things. We're here today, basically, if anybody drove in, like you said, a lot of people came from a long ways away. If you saw the ocean, it's huge. Anywhere else in the state, it'd be a 100-year storm. Humboldt's extremely dangerous, extremely rugged. We feel really passionate about what we're doing. Being state parks, we're deeply rooted in the law enforcement and emergency services. From visitor services in our district, I'm the only one who isn't a peace officer. And it's just something to note. I was told several times to mention that. But our training and our structure and rigidity is very much in line with the allied agencies here. And ultimately, we will reduce our funds. And thank you guys for your time. It's really a pleasure to be here and be around peers who are inspired and care about what they're doing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlie, or Crystal Perez, from the Arcata Police Department's Juvenile Diversion Team. Saw some familiar faces and some non-familiar faces, so I thought I would refresh people's memory about what we do. And why it's important. So juvenile halls being closed down, and boys camps and girls camps around have also been closed, as well as the decriminalizations of major crimes. Someone steals your car, someone shoplifts, overdoses, is dealing drugs. They've basically been knocked down to misdemeanors, so we don't have a lot of accountability for not only the youth, but the families and parents, and our community has struggled with mental health and substance abuse and everything that, you guys know the history of our community. So this program really helps support the schools. It helps support the mental health and hospitals that are highly impacted by a lot of these crimes and behaviors. Our counselors, Leah Valdivia and I, we offer mentorship, we offer tutoring, we offer drug and alcohol counseling, and then higher levels of service. We've seen everything, like we deal with truancy to, human trafficking, or, again, overdoses, and watching kids get support and services. And sorry, Naomi and love me for it. I get emotional talking about my program. Again, helping families find housing, and food. So yeah, this is just a really amazing program. It's something we're passionate about. And again, to reiterate what Karen said, we serve Trinidad and Blue Lake. We get kids who are coming from these in Willow Creek, and we have relationships with them. So when they hit high school and the admin and staff have no idea what's going on, and we're like, oh, we have their family history, we know what's going on with them medically, and just really making this a strong community as far as working with United Indian Health and other services and hospitals and mental health. I just appreciate you guys for supporting us so far for so long. And thank you.
Hello. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. My name is Kyle Holt, and I'm a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office, and I manage our Major Crimes Division. I'm here today to request consideration regarding Measure Z funding in regard to the Leica RTC 360 3D scanner. The accurate and timely documentation of major crime scenes is arguably the most valuable aspect of any critical investigation. Crime scenes are processed and documented as thoroughly as possible. However, in the early stages of the investigation, it's not always clear which details might be of the most importance. Investigators must deliver clear, concise, and well-documented information, including even the most delicate evidence, and they only have one chance to get it right. The forensic digital twin created by the Leica's 3D scanner enables investigators to fully document a crime while minimizing human error, increasing accuracy and efficiency, and improving courtroom understanding of the crime scene. The slightest evidentiary detail could mean the difference between winning or losing a case and bringing justice to victims and their families. In many instances, evidence may not be revisited for months or even years, and information about the crime may be lost over time. With the 3D reality capture capabilities of this scanner, the scene can be frozen in time, providing jurors the view of the scene as it appeared when the incident occurred. The scanner's digital fly-through feature allows prosecutors and jurors to place themselves in the crime scene and view it from any position, height, or angle. Time is critical for investigations, and processing a crime scene is often the most time-consuming and costly aspect of a police investigation. Our current scanner is over a decade old, and its capabilities have become outdated. This new scanner will reduce the time it takes to accurately process an entire crime scene by up to 60%. Our current scanner takes about 30 minutes to perform one scan. Multiple scans are typically needed in order to fully capture all of the data. If 6 scans are required for a given location, it would take our current scanner over 3 hours to conduct the necessary scans. Also, with the limitations of our current scanner, this is a crucial phase of the investigation when our investigators cannot work inside the crime scene because our current scanner does not possess the advanced capabilities to account for movement within the scan. In comparison, the new scanner can complete a scan in less than 6 minutes. So, using the previous example, the 6 scans, which currently take over 3 hours, can now be completed in less than 30 minutes. The new scanner's updated technology also saves time and money by accounting for movement within the scan, which allows investigators to continuously work within the scene. The new scanner is a force multiplier for personnel, a cost saver when it comes to time and liability, and it directly contributes to the public safety and security in that it helps investigations build more detailed and comprehensive investigations. The efficiency and speed of the scanner diminishes overall impact on the surrounding community, as well as frees up resources and personnel so that they can resume their normal public safety duties. The unparalleled accuracy and thoroughness provided by the new scanner allows for the clearest picture of the crime scene and what occurred, and which provides members of the community timely answers and gives the District Attorney's Office the best opportunity to achieve successful prosecution of dangerous individuals.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Antonacci, and I'm with Sky High Training. I submitted an application on behalf of the Institute of Combat to expand our current services that we're doing right now to add a boxing ring, to have a boxing club as part of our program. We have an anti-violence and anti-bullying program where we reach out to the local school districts and get referrals from kids that have shown some type of violent behavior to get them enrolled into our programs. Currently, we have jiu-jitsu, wrestling, MMA, and boxing needs to be a big part of that because some of the kids just do not want to do those particular activities, and we need to add another activity that we can encourage those people to enroll into our program. So the funding is for boxing ring, boxing coach, and then offer sponsors. So we want to be able to sponsor these high-risk kids that come into our center, enroll in there for a year, and we can work with them to mitigate their behaviors that they got going on right now and to make the school a safer place by taking the violent people and give them an outlook to do that. And boxing is a big part of that. And I did submit an application to reduce our funding by 35%. just in case we weren't going to get funded at all, that we can get by with that. And of course, the full amount would be better for us, but we're just hoping that we can get some funding to add that component to what we're doing right now at the Institute on Combat. Thank you.
Excuse me, Sean, can I ask, did you get that reduction from them?
Yes, I did, Chair.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That was a mistake of mine. I apologize for the
I just want to
for
make
the
sure.
overlooking.
Okay, thanks. Next.
Good afternoon, Chair Campbell, members of the committee. Tom Matson, Director of Public Works for Humboldt County. We did submit 6 applications. We did prioritize them, so we would request that if you need to cut funding, you start with our lowest priority. Our top priority was the Mattoll Road, which rated real well on a prior cycle, has a lot of community support. Even if they didn't come out this year, they did come out the last time. The second priority is our equipment. We're facing CARB deadlines to replace because we're considered a large fleet. We have 3 pieces of equipment that are critical to our operation that are currently parked as of January 1st this year. And we have about 20 pieces of equipment coming up with a deadline of 2027 that we will be needing to find funding to replace. Our third priority is Old Arcata Road, which is a high traffic route for the county and a backup for Highway 101 between Eureka and Arcata. Our fourth priority is actually Cathy Road in southern Humboldt. It may be a minor road, but it serves the communication towers of the entire southern Humboldt area and is critical for communication in Soham. Our fourth priority was West Haven Drive. We have a corner that large vehicles cannot stay in their lane. They track to the opposing lane when they're coming down, and this includes the local school bucks as well as HTA and some contractors that have been working up there for the community service district. Their 10-yarders can't even make the corner without crossing into the opposing lane. And then our lower priority is a standard grind and pave maintenance, which is still a priority, which was Elk River Road. So we would again request that if you need to cut any of the public works projects, you do it by priority, starting with the lowest and working up, and we'll be happy with whatever we can manage. Thank you.
Hello, committee members. Interesting being on this side of the dais today. I'm Alicia Hayes, a County Administrative Officer, and I come before you in support of application number 9. While this application is submitted by my office, this is really an application that is in support of everybody in this room. It's a request for $275,000 to work with the California State Association of Counties and their Ferguson group to capitalize on grant funds. These dollars have the potential of bringing in tens of millions of dollars to our communities if it were approved by your committee. Just to put into comparison what these dollars can do, Samoa Volunteer Fire was awarded $5,000 through the Headwaters Fund and worked with the Ferguson group to apply for a $1 million fire engine. So this program is intended to capitalize on large grants and seek the most amount of bang for our buck, which has always been a priority for your committee to use these dollars to leverage other dollars. So this is a good investment of your dwindling Measure Z funds to help spread those dollars out and reach further and farther into our community. So we thank you for that consideration. Have a great day.
Is there something else? Okay.
Good afternoon. Lieutenant Matt Eberhardt, Fortuna Police Department. At the moment, serving as acting chief. Chief Casey Day apologizes. He is away on training. He's due back tomorrow. But in his absence, he submitted 2 applications, one for ongoing funding with the Drug Task Force Officer and one for reestablishing funds for our school resource officer. So, Drug Task Force Officer, we are proud to say in Fortuna, with your support, we have been able to continue our staffing out there. Staffing at the Drug Task Force has been difficult for some agencies. having that officer there. I gave 2 presentations during this last couple months. One was at City Council, one was at State of the City with the Chamber of Commerce. I showcased a photo in that, and I know it's going to be difficult to see, but basically there's no duplicate pictures here. These are narcotics and firearms seized from drug trafficking operations in and around the city of Fortuna. So there's a substantial issue there. Continue year after year, the Drug Task Force continues to seize more and more narcotics. It is a problem. It is an epidemic. We appreciate your ongoing support in that, and there is a need for that. Additionally, the school resource officer, I could get up here today and name, many different reasons why that school resource officer is important, but our children, the youth today, they're attending schools that we didn't attend. The school environment is completely different. In the last year, working with our detective on proactive enforcement, these are firearms, handguns taken from kids ages 13 to 19 within the city of Fortuna that attend school. The center thing here is a video off of a suspect's phone pointing a loaded handgun at another juvenile behind a local business in town. So this speaks volumes. The need exists to have that connection within the school environment and ensure the safety of our kids. It doesn't only speak to ours, it speaks to Arcata's and anybody that's working with youth of the importance of making sure we have that connection with the kids, that we can identify these things and that we can address them. Thank you for your consideration.
I think when we get to the question, maybe you can ask this one. Anybody else like to speak on the application?
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Anybody else like to speak to their application?
Chair, I believe we have somebody in the, on video
do.
who would like to speak.
I have a raised hand.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, you've been asked to unmute, and you have 3 minutes for comment.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Turner, and I am the treasurer for the Free to Fly Foundation Single Moms Fund. I am here to request $25,000 for the Free to Fly Foundation Single Moms Fund. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. The Free to Fly Foundation provides single mother families in Humboldt County with support in the areas of survival, practical, and spiritual needs. Our programs include, but are not limited to, financial assistance, drug and alcohol recovery support, career advancement tools, parenting, and other resources. We provide single moms with information and referrals to other community resources and programs to help them get service connected. Supporting single mothers contributes to overall community well-being and safety. Over the years, our organization has held and is still actively holding a monthly Life of a Single Mom support group. At our meetings, we engage with single moms by offering public in-service programs and hosting speakers who discuss critical safety concerns. These topics include finances, human trafficking, keeping kids safe on the internet, substance use disorders and recovery, and domestic violence. The Free to Fly Foundation has trained and qualified volunteers who return phone calls. The funds from Measure Z would be used to provide financial assistance to single moms that need help with essential expenses. We accept 2 applications per calendar year per single mom for financial assistance with car repairs, payments or insurance, vehicle registration, dental, medical, and mental health expenses not covered by insurance, utility bills, and other one-time bills. This is an important program and has tremendous support from our community. The rise in PGE costs this year has been our major request from moms. Their PG&E bills are sometimes $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and some moms are doing without their PG&E in their homes because they cannot afford them. Single moms are the most vulnerable in our community, and we believe that our work is worthwhile. We are willing to make a 20% reduction in our request this year. That would equate to a $5,000 reduction in our ask, which would mean we are requesting $20,000. I thank you so much for your consideration and for your time, and appreciate the work that you're doing. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? No more public? Okay. All right, so this is the time when we can ask a different agency to come up forward if you have a question. And since I'm the chair, I have the first request. Okay, Lieutenant Holt, can you please come back? I have a question. I know it's hard to talk fast in 3 minutes, but.
I know. I'm rushing.
So would this laser be accessible to any other law enforcement agency or just the sheriff's department?
It is important to note that no other law enforcement agencies that we rely on and work with have timely access to this level of cutting-edge technology. With that in mind, this laser would be available to all the law enforcement agencies that we work with in the county. Anytime the critical incident response team gets activated, it goes to the scene. So whether it's in Arcata or Eureka or Trinidad or Garberville, if our personnel are there investigating, the scanner goes with them, and it can also be available upon specific requests to help with other 3D mapping assignments.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Question. Just for clarification, if a crime happened in this room right now, and let's say our scanner broke and we didn't have a scanner, how would you document evidence in this room without a scanner, without this technology?
The old-fashioned way.
Which is what?
Photographs and tape measures and using points of reference, and that's what the scanner does. In 6 minutes, it can scan this entire room, and then when you play that video in court, the jury and the judge can place themselves anywhere in this room and get a different point of view, a different angle of a witness who said they saw something over here or where the suspect was positioned. It does all that, including blood splatter, bullet trajectory, so super beneficial.
And then someone would have to actually draw the crime scene?
Correct.
That's maybe not an artist?
Correct.
Okay.
Luckily, we do have other agencies in the county who do have different variations of these scanners, similar to what we have now, but the technology with the new scanner is state-of-the-art.
The difference between a dial-up and a.
Exactly. If you think how far our cell phones and vehicles and computers have come in the last 10 years of technology, that's what we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question?
How old are these current scanners that most of the departments have and you have?
Some of them are old or newer than 10 years, but I don't think anybody has purchased a scanner within the last 5 years. So some of them are faster than ours, but they're still not as fast as we would like to do the job in a timely manner. And the big cost savings is that when our scanner is running, no one else can do anything. Everyone has to stand still. If somebody walks through the crime scene, we have to stop, start over. We have medical personnel on scene. We have perimeter units on scene. We have other agencies that can't do anything because our scanner is running. And this scanner allows everyone to keep moving, keep working, finish the scene, and everyone else can get back to their duties as soon as possible.
And it sounds like it's a whole lot faster.
A whole lot faster, 3 hours compared to 30 minutes for the new scanner.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have a question for any? Glenn?
The gentleman from Fortuna, please.
Yes, sir.
Just for a little bit of quick background, so I don't want to feel like I'm ambushing you, even though I probably am to some degree.
That's all right.
The committee has struggled a little bit to try to bring some commonality to the applications as far as which components of salary and benefits and so on are considered refundable and so on. And in going through yours, I just noticed your benefit rate in your application is 89.9% of your salary, which even by law enforcement standards is notable. Is there something non-typical in your program that would account for that anomaly?
I wish I could speak intelligently to that. That was put together with our finance director and our chief of police. I did visit the finance director's office this morning, showed him the application, and I asked, is this all correct? And he assured me it was.
Okay.
He did share with me that the administrative costs in years past had been removed, and that it still was removed and not submitted in here as well.
Okay, thank you.
But if you'd like, I can certainly follow up and ask for more detail on that.
It's probably a moot at this point.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? You have another question?
Yeah, one for staff, actually. Application number 21, which is the Valley Ambulance Service. In the prior process, the Board of Supervisors allocated about, I think it's $336,000, if my memory serves me, toward that service. And we have an application for us that's along the lines of their historic application for the total amount in the amount of $447. Are they asking for the differential between the historic amount and what was awarded in the prior process, or are they asking for the total 447?
So this application is asking for the difference between what the board approved in their 3-year spending plan and the stated value of 447. So it comes out to about 122,000.
Okay.
Okay, well, seeing no more questions, okay, we'll move on. Whoops, put myself. Okay, so the next step then is what we have, what we call the up-down vote, meaning applicants that don't meet, in our opinion, don't meet the qualifications for Measure Z, which is law enforcement, roads, ambulance, that kind of thing.
Can we read the ballot language so everyone's clear on that?
Can you put that up?
I'm sorry.
It should always be on
He's got it
there.
on his. What's yours then?
Do you have it?
I just had it written.
Do you have, no?
I don't have, I have the Measure Z original, I don't have the Measure O file language.
Alicia, do you have Measure O on your computer?
I could
some-
read what's on.
Okay. Okay. Right, that looks good. Can everybody see that in the audience? Okay, that's what we've always funded. We try to stay, we have to stay within those boundaries. That's what the taxpayers wanted, boots on the street, protection. So as we go forward, then what we'll do is an up-down vote. We call an up-down vote on every agency, and do we feel that that's, you know, if they qualify under Measure Z, Measure O language, okay?
Yes, and can you give that disclaimer that we all think that these are great applications?
Oh, of
Yes.
course. Yeah, I mean, if, you know, and yes, we all think they're wonderful. I mean, you know, it's very sad to have to say no, but at the same time, I just want to throw in a little, you know, kicker. We have 4.1 million, but, and as Sean said last meeting, next year is going to be a lot less. We at one point had 13 million, and that was during the issue with the former auditor controller, and we didn't know how much money we had, and all of a sudden we had 13 million, and we were thrilled because we were able to fund a lot of things. So next year, it's going to be a lot less than the 4.1. So anybody that does get money, you probably need to be thinking in terms of how you're going to fund yourself without this in case that happens. We wish it was more, but it's not. So anyways, so should we start? Do you want to go down?
All right, so we'll try to streamline this so this doesn't take forever. So I'm just going to go application by application. I'm going to ask for no votes. And I'm just going to tally that up. And if it's more than 5, then that will mean that if it's 5 or more, then that means that the application will be disqualified per this committee.
Because that's our quorum.
That's a quorum,
That's a
correct.
quorum,
That's a
okay.
majority of this committee.
Okay.
All right. So we will start with the application number 1. That is the City of Fortuna's application for the school resource officer. And I see, okay, I can see Mr. Cole up there. So I'm going to ask if there are any no votes on this application. Go ahead and raise your hand. All right, seeing 0 no votes. And application number 2, the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services for the evacuation platform. Are there any no votes for this application? Seeing none. Application number 3, the Humboldt Senior Resource Center. This is for emergency shelf-stable food for seniors. Do I see any, are there any no votes for this application? I see all 9. So that is 9 no votes and 0 yes votes. Application number 4, the Free to Fly Foundation, $25,000 or $20,000 reduced for the financial assistance to single mothers. Are there any no votes on this application? I see all 9 again. Application number 5, the City of Arcata, the Juvenile Diversion Counselor. Are there any no votes for this application? I see none. So that is 9 yes, 0 no's. Application number 6, the City of Trinidad, was withdrawn. Application number 7, the Sheriff's Office, $108,000 for the laser scanner. Are there any no votes for this application? Seeing none. It's 9 yes and 0 no's.
Sean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just got a message that online they can't see the panel.
Oh.
So they're seeing, I think, that screen
Okay.
up there, maybe? I
Go
don't know.
ahead. I'll stop the share. There we go.
There we go. Maybe that's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Thank you, Sheriff. Application number 8. This is the application from Willow Creek and Blue Lake Fire for the out-of-district response. Are there any no votes for this application? Seeing none. So that is 9 yes and 0 no's. Application number 9, County Administrative Office, $275,000 for grant consultation and grant writing. Are there any no votes for this application? Seeing none. Grant application number 10, the Fire Chiefs Association, $2.4 million for apparatus and equipment and other services. Are there any no votes for this application? Seeing none. 9 yes and 0 no's. Application number 11, the Healy Senior Resource Center of Southern Humboldt for Meals on Wheels in Southern Humboldt. Are there any no votes for this application? And Mr. Cole, oh, okay, I see 8 votes for no, and Mr. Cole, I'm assuming that's a yes on this application. Okay, application number 12, the Sky High Training, $25,000 actually reduced to $16,250 for the boxing ring enrollment fees. Are there any no votes on this application? Saying 9 no's. Application number 13, the Jacoby Creek Road Safety Committee was withdrawn. Application number 14 is the City of Blue Lake, the funding for contracted services with the Sheriff's Office. Are there any no votes on this application? Seeing none. It's 9 yes and 0 no's. Application number 15, the City of Rio Dell for the clerical support position. Are there any no votes on this application? Seeing none. Application number 16, Redwood Parks Conservancy for the year-round lifeguard. Are there any no votes on this application? Seeing none. Application number 17, Public Works, 2 miles of Matole Road. Chip sealing, any no votes? Seeing none. Application number 18 for Old Arcata Road Public Works. Any no's? Seeing none. And number 19 for Elk River Road. Any no votes? None. Number 20, number 20, Kathy Road. I'm assuming that is a unanimous yes. Number 21, Kamal Medical Center. Any no votes for that application? Seeing none. Public Works, the equipment replacement for 1.1 million. Any no votes? Seeing none. And Public Works, repair of West Haven Drive. Any no votes? So that is another unanimous. All right, Chair. So that means that we have, that your committee has eliminated the application number 12 for Sky High Training, application number 11, the Senior Resource Center of Southern Humboldt, application number 4, Free to Fly Foundation, and application number 3, the Humboldt Senior Resource Center. All the other applications would move forward. And if that is okay with your committee, I would like a vote to, or a motion to approve this list as I just explained.
Second.
All right, and I'll go ahead and go through a roll call. Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Trent?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Mr. Zemer? Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
And Ms. Long?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is committee consideration for possible reductions. And so we want to have public comment.
I'd like a discussion first. What's our total now as far as our ask? Since you have a handy spreadsheet.
Sure,
there,
yes.
right?
Give me
so
just
we know
a
what we're dealing
second.
with?
Yep.
Where's your finance person? Have her run out from the back.
If my spreadsheet is correct, that puts us at $5.88 million in requests.
Okay, Sean?
I'm assuming that includes the adjustment for Kimwall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Sean?
Yeah, so this next part, this next item on the agenda is the new process that your committee wanted to institute this year to have committee-imposed reductions. And so the way that we are proposing to handle this is to first take public comment, and then I believe the chair wanted to present some information from another committee member. And then after that, I have about a dozen applications that committee members have relayed to me that they have interest in talking about possibly reducing. So once we get to that point in the discussion, we can talk about individual applications and then vote on whether or not this committee wants to reduce each application. So I would pose to the chair that if we can get to that.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to start with the vice chairs?
With public comment.
Okay.
I know that we've discussed some, a few applicants have come up and discussed and said whether or not they would be interested in reducing applications. If you'd like, I can present the list of applications that I've had committee members have expressed interest to me for, and maybe that'll prompt some applicants to come up and talk about it.
Okay, or I think I'll go the other way.
Okay.
So is open for public comment, but is there any agency in the audience that has thought about it and would like to tell us they'd like to reduce their ask a little bit? I know when you got up and said you'd be willing to lower your ask, we don't have an amount, and it would be helpful if you did say that. Park guy, if you want to tell us how much you're willing to reduce it by, it will help us in our numbers.
Hey again, Dylan, lifeguard. I just went ahead and divided by 4 to take out 1/4 of So that would be 43,500 new ask, minusing 14,500
Okay.
from our original. It was about 58. So minusing 1/4 from the Redwood Parks Conservancy. And,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? If you mentioned that you'd like to reduce or could reduce, if you could tell us how much, just give us a number.
Sure, the city of Blue Lake would definitely be interested in reducing our ask. It's a fairly small ask, 35,000, and if 5,000 would be helpful, we would absolutely be able to do that, or even a little bit more. So
Okay.
we're happy to be a partner on that. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Anybody else? Sean, did you want to reduce yours? Sean? Sorry. Alicia?
Thank you. Yeah, our application for 275,000 is scalable at whatever amount your committee would see fit. But as it's scaled, the less capacity there is to capitalize on other funds. So these dollars have like I said, an immense amount of capability to leverage other dollars. So I would just, caution around that.
Okay.
But to whatever scale you need, we could
Okay,
cut back.
thank you. Yeah, Sheriff?
Alicia? I know in the fire application, they talked about leveraging funds, and I know that there's been some of that going on already. Is your intent here to work with the fire departments to try and provide that mechanism for these grants that may be on the state level, federal level, that they can use some of their Measure Z funds and this position with CSAC to try and gain more?
Yeah, fire departments and others. I would see this, potentially maybe going through like a request for proposals process where we ask people to submit to us what potential grant application ideas they might have, and then we will work with Ferguson Group to see what funding mechanisms are out there for these dollars. I think first and foremost, we would want to meet the intent and spirit of Measure Z, and given I've been with you all since the very beginning, I feel pretty well informed on where your priorities lie with these funding dollars. And then also ensuring that every dollar goes as far as possible. So looking for those big grants that are in the multi-million dollar buckets, potentially infrastructure grants and capital asset grants, and then working through priority in that order. And also, Ferguson Group is very well informed and well equipped to advise us on probability and likelihood of success in grants. So ensuring that we're investing our time and money in a product that will be fruitful in the end.
Glenn, you were first, and then.
Kind of following up on the sheriff's question, are there any limitations on the use of the services and so on that would come with your award that would be limiting? In other words, let me just get to the grist of it. The fire application is $50,000 that's identified for grant support and so on. Are there limitations on either side of that fence that would make one interchangeable or not interchangeable with the other?
I'm not sure I understand the question necessarily, but there are not a ton of limitations other than these are dollars intended to capitalize on grant writing expertise. So it's to advise us on what funding capabilities are out there. It's to help us write the grants, track the grants, manage them as we go through the process of that application. So there will be a lot of authority and purview in this process of where we decide to allocate those resources. I think might be getting to the crux of your question.
Maybe I didn't phrase my question well. Is there a limitation on the nature of services that you could provide that would make this dollar less effective than, say, the same dollar granted directly to the fire agencies?
No, it's the same. The $5,000, is that what you're referring to?
They have $50,000 in their application as a grant support element.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you're essentially trying to advance a grant support process. I'm just wondering if either one has more flexibility or more limitations than the other.
Sean might know.
Yeah, so
more
I'm, and maybe the fire chiefs might be better to talk about what their intent is with the $50,000 in their application. But this application is meant to serve as many people within Measure Z who are getting funded, or even those who applied, as possible. You know, as I mentioned to the committee last week, this application will first go through a strategic visioning process where we go and we talk with all of the applicants who are going to be involved in this process, and we develop kind of a strategic plan and a strategic map. As far as the limitation on the services that could be applied, as CAO said, keeping these services within the spirit of Measure Z would be the only limitation I could see.
And is there a variable billing rate depending on what service you're accessing, or is there what kind of billing rate are you paying for these services?
There's a few, there's not really a billing rate per se. There's a few tiers of service that they will provide. There's, I believe, $50,000, and they'll help us develop a strategic plan. $100,000 will get you the strategic plan, grant writing services for a limited number of grants, and then $250,000 we believe can help serve all of the agencies that are involved with Measure Z this year and help them with some grants. I don't believe it'll help us write, 22 grants for everybody who's involved in here, but it should be able to help us write a substantial amount of grants and seek grants in that way and lobby for grants and things like that.
Okay, great, thanks. And who is next?
If I could
Sean.
just add one thing to that through the chair. I will just say that Ferguson Group does provide a high level of expertise in knowing what funds are available out there. So I don't know who the fire chiefs or what the fire chiefs plan is for their $50,000, but we've been working with the Ferguson Group throughout the county, and we've had a lot of success with them, and they are very well informed and well equipped to assist us in this work.
Okay, did you want to?
I'd ask Chief Pape to answer the question about the grants, and then I have a comment related to Mr. Zima's question. No, you.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. Would you like me to speak to the previous question first?
Yeah, just clarify what the grant line item is in our.
Yeah, so the $50,000 for the grant services would be to contract with a local department that has admin staffing to work on grants. So for Shelter Cove Fire, I do our grant program. The department pays a little over $180,000 for all of my benefits, my pay, and uniform allowance. Just since 2020, I've brought in around $12 million in grants. Having somebody that knows what grants you're looking for is a huge thing. I'm not going to downplay the benefit of having more staff in the county to look at leveraging funds. Currently, we just got a check in for $2 million for 6 of the Type 6 engines that we're trying to replace 17 of them in Southern Humboldt. That was a miracle grant that came from a lot of hard work from the local chiefs. 5 are going to Southern Humboldt, 5 are going to Northern Mendocino, and that came from Senator McGuire's office on a direct funding through the state legislators. So those grants are out there. They're very difficult to get, and they're even harder to continue to report on the grant. 3 of my grants are 5, 6, and 8-year grants. So it's a 10-year process for sure, and it is beneficial. The other thing I would say about grants is they're not the Hail Mary. Base funding for fire departments that is consistent and we know is coming every year allows us to plan ahead. And that $1 million that was allocated from the Board of Supervisors does help us do that. And that $50,000, even if we don't get it, will go towards part of our $1 million because we do think we can leverage quite a bit of funds. The grants that are out there are more powerful regionally. Most of the grants that I do, including my fuels reduction grants, aren't just for Shelter Cove. We're a very small development, about 2,000 acres. But Southern Humboldt, there's a lot more power in numbers. So that's what we've been doing. We've been working a lot to pivot to the regional grant system instead of each individual of the 43 departments getting their own grants. And I think that's paid off, obviously, in the numbers. So if anybody's curious, we have number breakdowns, and I'd be definitely pleased to give them to you and share them with the CAO's office as well, because I do think there is power that we could go together to help leverage these funds. But the fire departments are preparing to be able to do it on our own, since we are the ones that we're knowing what we're getting and what kind of grants we need, so.
Okay, thank you. Is that what you wanted?
Yes. Chief Pape conveyed my comment. Thank you.
Okay. And I just wanted to reiterate what Sean, thank you. I want to reiterate what Sean had said, that anybody that has applied for Measure Z this year will be eligible to, if that position gets filled, will be able to use this company or this agency. So that's really good.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the fire chief's application,
Oh, okay.
possible reduction
Sorry.
as well. One is I personally disagree with doing it this way, where we don't know what you guys are going to ask us to cut when we come up here, and it's kind of self-incriminating to say, hey, we'd like you guys to cut this, but I do understand the position you're in. The Fire Chiefs Association does have around $300,000 in our second set of PPE. That's an OSHA requirement that we move on to our second set. So what happens is our first sets of PPE, which is our structure gear that we wear, it becomes contaminated with carcinogens, structure fire, results of combustion, stuff like that. Currently, we just did a structure academy. It took us 3 days to get our one set totally dried out and decontaminated. So those firefighters are out of service for 3 days unless we have that second set. So 300,000 is what we could cut and still maintain our single PPE, which if we lose the second set, it's not going to kill anybody right away, but with cancer, it could happen later on. But without knowing, obviously, we're the elephant in the room with the largest request significantly. That's really what we could afford without making operational cuts to fire departments in the near future, with the reminder that we did get cut to pretty much 100,000 operational last year. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry, Nick, sorry about that. Yo-yo here.
Bad time.
Historically, I know last year, anomaly, we can't go back, but historically, it's been about $2 million.
Absolutely.
We've been funding, and you've always made it work, right, with whatever you guys are getting. How essential are those fire apparatus that you have on here, on this application?
100% essential. We missed them last year. Right now, the other OES engines that we're getting to the direct funding, they're taking up to 3 years. So just for me to get the check in hand took a 2-year process of me. It'll be 2 years in October, but by the time we get the engines, the company that we're going with says we won't see them until end of fire season 2025.
Wow.
So everything has, a Type 1 engine, as was being discussed with Samoa Fire, can be 3 to 4 years out right now, if you can even get a chassis. So it's easy to say we're getting the funding. It's a lot harder to put that engine in the bay serving the public. So that's something to keep in mind.
That's
as
a
well.
great point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other? No. Okay, so I'd like to move on to Tammy's comment. So the vice chair has been working diligently, I think all night, every night for the last couple of weeks. She's very good with numbers, and she has come up with a possibility of funding that may make a lot of people happy, maybe not, but I'd like her to present her idea, and we can put it up right? Sean can put it up. So I'll turn it over to Tammy Trent.
It's a little bit different from what I had originally told you.
Tell me where it's different, please.
Okay.
Oh, God, nobody can see that.
Yeah.
Oop. Oh, sorry.
It's just
That's still...
How it's on the different part, I have the city of Blue Lake for 30,000 and the Public Works Old Arcata Road for 131,759.
Is this active? Could you add a column and put what she's saying into a column, like put it into the AQ column or whatever?
Yeah, so as I understand it, Ms. Trent, this column in the revised budget is...
Yes, yes.
Which is her... Is your mic on? The next one to the right. Is your mic on? I'm just wondering if the spreadsheet's active, if we could add a column of her suggestions, just so we'd have them all in front of us.
My suggestions are in the revised budget. But it,
So this is your spreadsheet?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make sure.
Everything gets funded, is that? Just for clarification, this is, you're talking about something that everything gets funded. Is that the crux of this?
Not everything gets completely funded, but there's funding for most of them.
Okay.
I don't see all of the,
It starts with number 7 instead of number 1.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, for the city of Fortuna, it was, full funding for number 1, the sheriff's department, full funding for number 2. And then city of Arcata, was full funding. Let's see, what do you have there? The city of, or the sheriff's office, number 7 was full funding. The county administrative office was partial funding, and that would be of $200,000. The Fire Chiefs Association was 1.4, and the City of Blue Lake was 30. City of Riadel was full funding. The parks, I had just taken out the overhead cost on that, which they volunteered some reduction there, but that was the part that out of that. And then in Public Works, their top 2 were funded and their partial third one. And that comes out to be right at 4.1, a little above 4.1. And I didn't put any additional funding in there for the ambulance because they got funded the same as they did previous, and they've got some grants that lowered their expenses. So that's why that one is, because they're previously funded. And that's all just a suggestion of trying to give everybody something.
The other thing I want to point out, to reiterate, that the 1.4 million that we'd be offering to the Fire Chiefs Association, that doesn't include the million that they're guaranteed anyway. So it would be 2.4 million that they would be getting, because they were going to get it for 3 years, right? Okay, so this is just a suggestion for everybody to look at and consider. And we're still going to go through the process of, looking at the agencies, but this is...
What's hard about the process that we've been doing before is by putting it in certain orders, if the great big ones put first, it leaves no funding for the other ones. And so I was trying to come up with a way that could give a suggestion of funding for most of them, instead of, 2 agencies getting everything.
But that's the point, is we're here to prioritize funding that's limited. It's not to give everyone something, it's to prioritize the funding, limited funding we have. So I don't agree with the process. I think we should go through what we usually do because it's the most appropriate, equitable way to do it. Also, we haven't even gotten into the possible reductions. And I understand your recommendations, but it doesn't take into account any of that. So certainly, is this part of the reduction conversation, or is this something totally different?
Yeah, it is. It's just, an idea that she wanted to throw out. And and Sean, do you want to go ahead and talk about the reductions?
Well, I know it looks like Mr. Cole has his hands raised.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess if this is a moment to chime in. Tammy, I absolutely appreciate the amount of work that you put in. But from my point of view, I cannot support a cut to Humboldt Bay Fire of that amount.
they'll be getting 2.4 million.
No, and I understand.
Okay.
But as far as what their ask is in the context of what they did not get last year, and what the future looks like, that's why and to Sean's point, we have to prioritize funding, and we tend to have to look beyond just a single year to consider what's coming down the road. And with that context, I'm much more apt to want to fund certain applications that I see as greatest need, rather than diversify towards spreading out the impact.
Does anybody have any comment?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I seem to agree with that. I know what you're trying to do, but I think that the need that, and the reason that we have Measure Z or Measure O is to spread it out and assist the emergency departments. And so I appreciate what you did, but I'd like to go back to how we did it before.
Anybody else have any comments? Should we vote on going back to the to the old ways? Okay.
Just go back. It was just a suggestion.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion, and it was good. Okay.
May I have one more comment? Absolutely, it was a great suggestion, and this is the forum where those suggestions get to be voiced. So absolutely, I just needed to express my opinion. And I think we should absolutely have the discussion if any of these applications we consider candidates for reduction, but I think those applications need to be viewed individually, not as a whole and trying to fit everything into the whole. I think we need to look at the applications themselves and say, does this application look like it can be reduced? And I thought that was the process that we were looking at.
Okay. So Sean?
Okay, so I'm going to try to put on the screen the applications that I have heard comments from this committee on that they are interested in potentially reducing. And these are the applications here. And so at this point, I would want your committee to discuss amongst yourselves each application, beginning with wherever you'd like. But discuss each application, how much you want to reduce it, see if we can come to consensus. If there are a lot of applications that we can come to consensus on, then we can maybe take a vote on the ones that we know that we agree on, or we can take a vote on each individual application.
That's not all the applications.
No.
These are these are the applications that committee members have told me that they are interested in reducing.
Well, some of them are already gone, right?
Correct.
So, okay, Sean?
Yeah, can you edit it now to remove the ones that are now ineligible, and then put the amount that has just been offered as reductions that we've heard from applicants?
Yeah, sorry, it's just trying to keep track of a lot of stuff right here, but yes, I can do that. I believe these are the applications that are still eligible to receive funding.
So Sean, while you're doing that, can I ask the committee a question?
Please do.
Okay, so nobody's saying anything about process, but so it sounds like some of you want to go back to the old way, the other way, where we go through each application and decide, you know, if there are 1, 2, or 3? Is that how we're going to do it? Because that's what we've always done, so.
Yes, I didn't know if there was even a question on that.
Well, I just wondered because some, you know,
Right.
if some people like the idea of everybody getting some funding, then we wouldn't do that, but yeah. Okay, so we'll go through the 1, 2, 3 process?
I would support going through the proposed reductions, having the committee vote on whether to accept the reduction. Then we may or may not have a revised application, and that's the basis for our ranking.
Right, but in the meantime, I just want to make sure that, yeah, that's what I said, basically. Okay, so once we know what the reductions are, then.
All right, so I believe that what you are seeing up on your screen, the applications that are highlighted in yellow in the revised budgets column, apologize for it being so small. These are the applications that the committee has said we want to reduce, and I believe I've gotten all of the reductions that have been proposed by applicants who are still eligible into this sheet. We're still at about $5.85 million, $5.86 million.
5.8, is that what you said?
Correct.
That's with the reductions, okay.
Oh.
Okay. So, I guess we'll go through the 1, 2, 3 process.
So we still need to talk about, right now, I would
Right.
suggest that you talk about application number 1,
Right.
that committee members have said, hey, we're interested in reducing.
Right.
And then
Go down from there.
come to a number.
Do you want to, I mean, talk about like, whoever wanted to reduce it, you know, what they wanted it reduced by or why they felt it needed to be reduced?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. All right. So we'll start. We're not going to certainly get finished. We have 10 minutes. We have to leave, but we'll at least get it started, the process. So, where's your list? Is that the Oh, City of Fortuna, okay. No, where's the reduction list?
So if
that
there
the
was
yellow?
a committee member
Oh,
who
okay.
had mentioned to me that they are interested in
Okay.
reducing City of Fortuna's.
Okay. So that person, if you could let us know how much you wanted it reduced by or whatever, the City of Fortuna?
So I submitted that question.
Yeah,
This is really
Thank you.
bizarre. The police, the lieutenant already provided us some information, but I wasn't able to give us an articulate calculation to be reduced. So the only thing we can go by is the application as it stands. The only thing I can suggest right now, not knowing why, as Mr. Zima pointed out, their roll-ups are so high, relatively speaking, I would reduce the overtime amount, which I believe was $80,000 or $50,000 thereabouts. For $118,000 was the base salary, then the roll-ups were pretty substantial. But my suggestion for reduction would be the overtime amount.
The overtime, and that was what amount?
I don't see overtime, I just see benefits.
Do you have the overtime? How much the overtime is?
I don't.
It's 18,000. If you scroll down, there's a budget estimate for the SRO. But again, the roll-ups are higher than the base salary, and we don't know why they're so high. And I can't recommend a reduction because I don't know how that would affect the application.
What is it that you're talking about that are high?
The overtime.
The benefit.
The total employee benefits are listed at 90,786.
So that's the amount
No.
proposing to.
No, what I've suggested is to reduce it by 18,000, which is the overtime,
Okay.
unless someone from Fortuna can help us understand why the total employee benefits, or am I misreading it?
No?
Those are actual costs of, I mean, our health insurance, I think we pay a larger portion of our health insurance than other agencies do. So that would make that part go up. Our unfunded liability through PERS is very high also. So I know, I've asked about why our benefits are almost as much as the employee, and those were the answers that I got. And we do pay a large portion of our insurance for our employees because our wages are so much lower. That's the only thing I could bring it, we won't be voting on it till next week anyway. I could bring it and break it down for you, talk to the finance manager.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption is the finance manager's taken the total unfunded liability payment for the city and then divided it by a number of employees to come up with a number.
Mhm.
But again, it seems inordinately high, but thank you for the explanation.
Okay,
I'll
so-
just stand with my suggestion until more information can be
Okay, so
provided.
you-
If any other members are requesting that information, of just reducing the
Okay.
overtime amount.
By 18,000.
And Chair, Committee Member Cole has his hand raised.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. I just didn't want to talk over everybody when I'm not in the room. It's a little weird. I would support what Sean is expressing, but I would also remind us that even if we reduce an application, I don't think that does not mean we're saying we are removing a line item. It's saying that we're reducing the overall amount.
Right.
So that whatever agency, whatever they get as an agency, they can allocate it to that position as they need. And so I think the line item information is very important, but if we're going to reduce an application, we can say we're going to reduce an application by 18,000 or 20,000. And it's up to the agency to decide if then that is a benefit to them.
Right,
And if that's an outcome they want to accept.
Yeah, we can't get into the weeds of their business, so if it's 18,000, then we'll just put that as a recommendation. We're not going to vote till probably next week on these, right?
Yeah, we've only got 7 minutes left.
I know. So Glenn, one more question.
Just for clarification, did I understand you to suggest that Fortuna's taken advantage of the CalPERS program that allows them to prepay the PERPA liability, or
No,
they're not doing that?
taking advantage of,
Under CalPERS, under the PERPA legislation, you have a mandated amount that you have to pay on your unfunded liability. They also offer you options to prepay to reduce the time period that'll,
none of that is included in here. If we come in under budget, they will sometimes make an extra payment to PERS,
Okay.
but that's not.
that's not included in this.
But
Okay.
again, we're not going to get into their business if we just.
The only thing that's included in this is what's mandated, what we have to pay.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, okay. And again, we're not going to talk, we'll just say how much we think that should be reduced and let them decide how they're going to do it. Bob?
I would be interested in hearing from the city on why overtime is needed for this particular request.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do you want to come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the last speaker. Make it good.
So with the school resource officer position, they work during the school hours, during the week. There is school dances, community events, safe and sober, different things that happen throughout the year, sporting events, and that officer does work on those at those later times to ensure that connection with the youth as well as the connection with the community and the safety. So that's where the majority of the overtime comes in, is those events. Additionally, I showed you the pictures of the firearm stuff. When we work some of those cases, we don't stop at 3:30 or 5 or, we continue to work that investigation until it's done. And if it goes past that officer's allotted hours during that day per MOU, that falls under overtime. I will say that, and I'm sure Sean can attest to this, that historically, I believe we come in under budget on the requests that we do ask. And I've actually had that conversation where I said, no, we only submit our actual cost. And because I've been personally asked that, why is it lower? That's why it's lower. If an officer doesn't attend the training, if they don't work the overtime, if we don't buy the supplies, it doesn't come out of Measure Z.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so, did you want to say something, Sean?
So at this point, we've only got a couple minutes left before 4 o'clock. When we come back next week, I would propose that we continue this process where we go application by application. The committee members who have expressed interest in reducing an application be prepared to speak about your application, and then we will take a vote on each application. I would appreciate that a committee member make a motion to reduce an application, see if it gets a second, then we'll take a vote and move on to the next application. After that, we will proceed with the 1, 2, 3 ranking process.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry about the confusion to the public. This is the first year we've had reduction. And so we're trying to do a good job and, letting everybody have their say. So thank you all for coming so much. And we'll be here next week, 2 o'clock on Thursday. Please come back if you want. Okay, thank you. Why do I have all these extra papers?